Okay, so picking back up where we left off a lighthouse, I kind of want to make sure that you have a solid understanding of that because I feel like you still feel a little shaky on it. And I just want to make sure that you're solid on it. And I also don't want you to put undue stress on yourself to dive deeper than you need to from a UX design perspective. So I kind of want to revisit it just to kind of add some clarity and then to make sure you're good on it. Let me share my screen again. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So so to make it clear in terms of Lighthouse accessibility, what you're responsible for and what you need to understand concerning the Lighthouse report, the best way for you to digest it as a UX designer is to know this performance from your vantage point. If you see low performance scores as a UX designer, you need to look at video consumption, high resolution images, special effects, and animations. Those are the three areas that you pay attention to when the performance to that directly, those are the three areas where design directly affects performance. There are other things that affect performance that are developer centric. But in
Uh,
terms of UX design, you need to look at the design and assess images, video, special effects, and animations. That's the only thing you need to focus on from a UX perspective. So when you're looking at the Lighthouse report, you're looking for call outs. So when you're looking at this report,
what was the last thing? You said video consumption, high resolution images, and then you said one more thing after
special effects and animations.
that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at the report and you're looking at the call outs, um, those are the keywords you're looking for. So like here, it says defer off-screen images. That's the thing that you will look at because that's something that you designed and decided to implement. Um, what's something else? When we looked at the call out about when we go to accessibility and we had the call out about contrast, those are keywords for you. Like, oh, there's a contrast issue. What color choices did I make? Right? So you're not responsible for every line that's reported. So this report is for the developers. It gives feedback to the developers for things they need to do differently, as well as the copywriters, what they need to do differently. Because you asked me what's SEO. SEO was search engine optimization. So I don't even know how much this is a thing or what the relevance of it is now. The rules have changed so much. But typically, what search engine optimization is where you rank on a Google search. Everybody wants to be on the first page. So it's like, if I'm searching for places to do Pilates, right? And if somebody does a Google search in terms of search engine optimization, I want my site to appear on the first page because most people aren't going to look, the second page of results, the third page of results. So that SEO, content writers, they try to write the copy and try to write the paragraphs and the description on the pages. They do different things with their writing to try to rank higher on the Google search results. Best practices is something that will probably be something that you pay attention to. But it looks like displays images with incorrect aspect ratio, serves images with low resolution. Some of this stuff is like, those are developer things. Yeah. So is that more clear? So don't look at it as just like all of this is you. This Lighthouse report, you're going to look at it. The UX design team is going to look at it and make changes. The copywriters are going to look at it and make changes. The front end developers are going to look at it and make changes. And the back end developers are going to look at it and make changes. So everyone uses this report just so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. But what you're paying attention to is stuff that has to do with choices you made, design choices. So in the performance category, again, if you have a low performance score, you're going to look at images, videos, special effects, and animations. As a UX designer, the developers are going to be looking at other stuff. Accessibility. As a UX designer, you're going to look at things like, are your call to actions clear? The colors you chose, is there enough contrast between the background colors and the text that you have overlaying, right? That stuff affects accessibility. You're also going to look at the interactions that you chose. Are the interactions intuitive? Do the interactions work well with screen readers? You know, that best practices. We're getting results on APIs. That's a back-end developer thing. Listening for, that's a back-end thing. Browser errors, .javascript, source maps, display image, that stuff is, a lot of this stuff is best practices in terms of coding practices. And SEO has to do with the content writers. They're talking about the links, this is developer stuff. Did the front end development team add attributes to the images? All of that stuff. So when you look at the Lighthouse report, when you see low numbers, it's your job to just blow the whistle. It's not your job to understand all of the back end development reasons that it got a low and score, the front end development reasons, right? So the job is for you to go through, let the team know, like, hey, we have some accessibility issues, we have some performance issues. I need you guys to look into that. That's the beginning and end of your communication about the Lighthouse report to the developers. In terms of you, things that you directly impact when you look at the report, then you take those things back to the design team and you guys make adjustments.
Okay. Okay, yeah. That helps a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So having said that, we were going through, the whole reason we got into this rabbit hole is because we were going through the 4 user design centered, right? User design centered user, or user design centered design. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over. But we were saying, what are the 4 things that what's the word I'm looking for? The 4
User experience?
the 4 components of a good user experience. Yes, thank you. The 4 components of a good user experience. And we were just assessing, is it usable? Is it equitable? Is it enjoyable? And is it useful? So that's how we got into that, because when we got to the equitable part, we looked at the Lighthouse report and I just opened up a whole can of worms. But then a good can of worms, because those were all excellent questions and diving in and really understanding that. And you are going to run Lighthouse reports. So it's important for you to, all your questions were good. Is it enjoyable? That's subjective, but for the most part, we're just trying to identify pain points. And is it useful? And we identified there are 6 different uses. So knowing what we know and going through what we went through, going all the way back to your design. That is, where is it? Oh, it's coming. Okay, going all the way back to here. All the way back to square one. We were dealing with usable. That's as far as we got with it. Is it usable? And we went from only focusing on whether or not a person could book. So the only use that a person would have had for this application when we started out many sessions ago, right? The only use they would have had was to primarily book a service,
Right.
which was not very useful. And we went through the process. We went through the first step of the 4-step user-centered design process, which was, is it usable? And we made it a lot more usable. So do you remember what we did to make this more usable? We went from what other things that we add to the site that an end user can use the site for?
We added
I'm sorry, I'm zooming in and out, but go ahead.
we added a non-member homepage.
Hmm.
We added
The ability
um
for them to,
create a profile. Uh what else?
what can they use the site? What can a member use? What can a non-user, well, I wouldn't even say a non-member because they're users. If you buy a product, you're a member. But what can a member who's not a, let's just say they didn't sign up for a recurring service, right? We added usability, we added a lot of use cases for users who may not be month to month members, but they are still members. So what can they use the site for that they couldn't use the site for before?
Um Tracking
Tracking what?
their in-body assessment.
Yep. And what else? What other usability? Oh shoot, I keep saying that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I keep mixing up usable with useful. Where we're talking about is useful. How do we make it useful? How do we
Oh,
make this site more useful? I'm sorry.
um, by making it so that they can make a profile and look at their in-body assessment.
Hmm. And what else can they do?
And then they can contact us.
Hmm.
They can they can book, and then they can also go back to the home page and get a confirmation
Hmm.
for everything.
What else is useful on here? So
Um,
actually, all you have to do is like,
the what we offer,
hmm.
the about
So
us
okay, so let's do it this way. What's useful for non-members?
for non.
What are some useful things non-members can do?
Oh,
They
they
can do
can
what?
look and see what we offer. They can
Hmm.
learn about us. They can do
Hmm.
look at testimonials, and they can contact us.
Yes. What else can non-users do after they
Uh,
look at what we offer? A non-user can do what?
They can book a service.
Yes. And then once if a person books a one-off or an a la carte service, what can they do that they couldn't do before? So if I purchase an in-body assessment or if I book a health assessment,
Mhm.
what usability, I'm trying to make sure, God, useful. What in what ways can the site be useful to me that it wasn't useful for me before?
Um,
It's useful that I can actually go back in. I can look at my in-body assessments. It's
oh,
useful because I can go back in. I can look at my health assessments, right? And then
mhm.
for a member, how useful is this site for members? So what's all the things that a member can use the sites for and within the member area? What can they do? How
They
useful is it?
they can look at their in-body assessment.
Hmm.
Um, they can check their stats. They
Hmm.
can book a service. They can track their measurements. They
Hmm.
can book a health assessment.
Yeah.
And then,
So that's
oh,
all it. So that's how useful the site is. Now when we get to enjoyable, that's when we start doing a design aspect of it. So we haven't really touched, but this is part of it too, though, because it is enjoyable if the workflow is enjoyable. So do we feel like the workflow, if we go through the steps of a typical user, do we feel like this will be an enjoyable experience? So let's go all the way back up to the top where they first enter their entry point.
okay.
I can't see the top. Did you scroll
Hmm?
to the top? Oh, let me zoom. Let me do highlight. Let me make you the highlight. 'Cause- okay, I see where you are now. All right. Okay. So yeah. So let's walk through that process. So if someone comes to the site, right? We don't know if they're a user, a member or not a member. The first thing they see is the welcome product page. Do we feel like that's a good experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then they have the option of logging in or not logging in. Does that flow feel natural?
No,
Okay. So what do you think feels more natural?
I feel like it should be members or non-members.
Not like that. Okay. So is that something that we want to add um after what? The
After
welcome?
the welcome, yeah.
Okay. So let's insert that then.
Uh,
It'll go right under it. No, right under that flow. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
You can just take that no path up and over so you don't have to move all of that other grid. Yeah. That arrow can just go up and over.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So really that's a decision.
This is,
Hmm. That's a blue diamond.
oh, this is a blue diamond. Okay.
This is gonna be member/non-members.
Oh, so not two.
Well, it is too, but you already mapped that out. You already mapped out if they're not a member, they're gonna come over here, and if they are a member, they go through this process.
Oh, okay. So I can delete this one.
Mm-hmm. Because you already did that. So this is just a path. They're making a decision. Mm. It'll say like member login or so it's really going to be login or not login. Member login or not. No, the diamond was fine. Like at the top where it says members, non-members.
Hmm.
So specifically, they're making a decision. They have an option where they can either go through the member login or continue as not a member. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? Member, do you want to member login? Where you have members, non-members, just change what that says. It's just going to say member login or non-members. Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's just going to be a non-member experience or something. Just do AXP. So if they choose, so you got a yes under that diamond. If they choose to log in, there's another decision. Because if it's a yes, it's going to go to the login. Yep. And if it's a no, it's going to go over there. You got to know right there, that little gray no on that's yeah.
Okay. So over here.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what? Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember?
So really, because you intercepted that, we don't need that no right there because you intercepted that.
Okay.
And now that login actually becomes a yellow landing page because they made
Hmm.
the decision before. So now that blue square is actually a landing page now. because you had to make the decision to log in or not before to take the use. So they're taking like either a member experience or a non-member experience. Yep. And then instead of that gray, it's just going straight to the member area. So you can just remove that gray yes and
This
just
one?
extend that. Nope, the one under. And just extend it. Because you repositioned the decision. And just make that login. Yep. You don't really have to move. You can keep it where it was to stay in line. Move that gray box back over. Yep. And after they log in, they're gonna, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Because you changed the decision flow.
Okay, yeah, I see.
You can move that blue arrow up too, so it's in the same line with the no, the blue diamond, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's yeah. Because they're making a decision to log in or not log in. So you know how you come to some sites and it's like members enter here or non-members. So that's basically what that decision is going to be right there. Yeah. You can just pull that down so it's not slanted like that. Just pull the no down. Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's go through. So they enter, it's like welcome. They see the welcome page, and then it's like members enter here, non-members go there. Do you want to log in or you don't want to log in?
Okay.
If you choose to log in, you go to the login page, and then after you log in, you are in the member area. I think it'd be better you just move everything over. So like don't redo the whole graph. So like what I'm saying is like this, because this is so small, I would just okay. Okay, cool. All right, so you got start and then they're gonna welcome. So they see the welcome page, and then from that welcome page, they make a decision. Do you want to take the member experience or the non-member experience? Then
A
if they choose,
member. Oh, okay.
yeah. Go ahead, you can walk me through it.
A member, they're gonna click yes. They're gonna log in. And then we're gonna go to the member homepage. And from there you can click on a service. Well, you can look at your in-body assessment, your stats, measurements, health assessment. I feel like I need to move something.
Why?
Or is book a service in the wrong spot?
No, these are not. So these are not the order that is going to appear on the page. These are just the options.
Oh, okay.
This isn't a page layout. This is just what options do they have from, this is a map. This isn't the page layout.
Okay. Okay. So in-body stats, book a service, measurements, health assessment. And then they can book a service, complete checkout, and then thank you confirmation, and then they go back to the homepage.
Yep. And then what's this flow about? Oh, that's from coming over here. Okay. So then up here, if they say no, what's happening?
Then they go to a non-member homepage. And then they can see what we have to offer. So what we offer, about us, testimonials, contact. And then I think we should add a contact on a member homepage too.
Yep, I agree.
Why do I keep doing that?
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Hmm.
That's good. You don't like it? Or you want the arrow?
I wanted the arrow, but okay.
Okay.
Okay. So then
Yep.
over here they can see what we offer and then they can book a service and then they'll get a thank you confirmation, create a profile, and then they'll come into the
Yeah.
member homepage.
Yep. So that's very useful.
I like that
Equitable.
second.
Yeah. So equitable, I think that's good. So
Okay.
let's just go over what we did today and go over what the homework assignment is. What we're tapping into next is very heavy. It's just too much to attack on the end of the day. So
Okay.
this is very good progress. So the next step for you would be to, take this flow and you would present it to the business. And yeah, when you present it to business, you'll just talk through it. They may have some other things they want to add, maybe not, they'll just go with it. And then in terms of homework,
Do you you
mhm,
think you could show me how to get to the lighthouse? Because I know you said that was going to be um a part of our homework, but I don't know how to get to the lighthouse on the webpage.
okay. So like if you're on a site and if you right click anywhere on the site and you inspect it, at the bottom you're gonna have all these options and you can click on Lighthouse.
Oh, inspect. And then um, hmm,
And that's from a Google Chrome browser, by the way. So you gotta make sure you're using Google Chrome's browser for that.
I see it. Okay.
Yep. And
So
then so you wanna perform a test for mobile and desktop. You run both tests.
okay, and then I'll go through each one. So for performance, I'll look for video consumption, high resolution images, video, special effects, animation, color, accessibility, the call to actions, make sure those are clear, good color choices and interactions.
And when right. And when you're going over it, like just you like so say for example, like I'm gonna do desktop this time.
Hmm.
That's another user experience thing. Okay, so they got a little bit better performance on their desktop version. So for their desktop design is a lot more solid than their mobile design.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, but when you're going, you ask what these things mean. So CLS is what is CLS? Cumulative layout shift. This is the legend right here.
Okay.
SI speed index, that's what that means. But what you're gonna do is you'll just go through and you can just kind of scan. You kind of know the stuff that applies to you, right? So 40, so if you want to look at performance, you click on performance, and then this is the performance report. If it sounds like it's a developer thing, it doesn't apply to you. If you see those keywords like image, contrast, animations,
Mm-hmm.
accessibility, when you look at that. So yeah, that's how you would just.
Okay.
But overall, like I was saying, as a UX designer, like if you were running a report for a company and they got low performance, this accessibility is awesome, right? But what you would do is you would just really, you're just sounding the alarm and saying, hey guys, we need to look at, because you're the advocate. So think
Mm-hmm.
of it like this: you are the advocate for all users.
Okay.
They're trusting you to make sure that they have a good experience. So you may not be the developer, but you still want to blow the whistle when there's a performance issue.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like to recap over, just the key points of what we went over today, because we covered a lot. Just starting here, I'm gonna do like a blaze through the most important stuff. So there's 3 different types of design practices: universal, which is the one size fits all, which we don't use anymore; inclusive design, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you solve for one, extend to many; and then equity focus. When we talked about the difference between inclusive and equity, equity embodies inclusive. As equity, in addition to everything inclusive does, equity also pulls in people who have been underrepresented in the past or not considered in the past. And it also deals with specificity. So like specific issues like, that are personal, like vision impaired, hearing impaired, dexterity, like those types of things. Whereas
Okay.
inclusive deals more so with like collective groups. So African American, people who identify as a certain gender, you know what I mean? It's more group oriented. People who are currently, also is also the word current is that key word, who are currently underrepresented, discriminated against, not thought about. Whereas equity is going to pull in people from who have in the past but not considered as well. When web design first started, there wasn't a lot of consideration towards people who had disabilities. The design was just not really catering to them in a lot. And we've made a lot of progress, but there's still a long way to go. But
Okay.
that would deal with equity, because you're talking about people who in the past have a history of not being thought about and considered. Equity focused design, you want to make sure that there's no biases when it comes to the assumptions made about race, gender, ability, age, socioeconomic design. Like we went over when we were talking about the fact that there's a lot of new first time users of the internet, first time onboarders to technology, period. And when you take into consideration that those first time users are coming from places like India, Indonesia, Mexico, you have to take into consideration that the devices are not as strong as the devices that you may use, right? Sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
slower, they don't have the same capability, the ability to always have a reliable internet connection. You can't assume those things. So that, make sure there's no socioeconomic bias. Everyone, if your device only works, or your design is only enjoyable for someone who has the latest iPhone or the latest Android or MacBook Pro, right? Then that's not
Mm-hmm.
really socioeconomically sensitive. There's no
Right.
empathy there. When we
Okay.
talked about forms, we talked about some things that are, like commonly overlooked when you're designing a drop down. Always ask, is it necessary to ask the question? If it's a question that's identifying the characteristics of a person, is it necessary for the service that's being rendered? And if it's not, really don't ask.
Okay.
We talked about being cautious when you actually test, right? So we gave the Google example when they first came out with Google Voice Assistant. The first mistake they made was they trained the voice assistant to respond to a male's voice that was a native speaking American, right? So it had issues with female voices that have a higher pitch and a different voice inflection. It also had issues with um, end users who may have a heavier accent. So those are things to consider. Like when you're running your test, make sure that your test represents all users from all walks of life, age, accessibility, how often they actually are they new to technology? Have people who have never used technology and people who have used technology. Have people who are very, very familiar and very tech savvy and people who may not be as tech savvy. So you just want to have a broad range of people when you're testing. When you're choosing image representation, just keep that in mind. Be inclusive, be equitable with the avatars, images, and icons. We talked about designing for multiple platforms. You remember which platform we designed for first? Angela?
Oh, yes. Can you repeat that, please?
What platform do we design for first?
Mobile.
Yep. But does that mean that we Slack on desktop, TV, tablet?
No.
Right. So brand identity. What is brand identity? And name four characteristics that are, I'm sorry, name four components of brand identity. What is brand identity? And name four components of brand identity.
Brand identity is the brand. And the characteristics like the logo, colors, font, and
Yeah, the brand identity is the voice of the brand, so to speak.
oh,
You know what I mean? So that's a good way of defining it. Brand identity is the voice of a company
okay.
or product. It's the voice, it's the representation, it's the voice and representation of a company and product and or product. And yes, it's the colors, the logo, the font that you use, the slogan,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this, just making sure that the interactions you design for are intuitive. It's all about the user. That's the one thing. It's all about the user. It's not about our assumptions. It's not about our biases. It's not about what we have an issue with. It's about what does the majority of the users, what is their primary problem? And what are we trying to solve and make easy for them?
Okay.
The four step, this is something to commit to memory because it's going to be on your certification exam. So user design, the four-step process is to understand how the user experienced the product or similar products. So you want to look at other products as well. So like if we were looking at FedEx, we would also look at UPS and we will look at the United States Postal Service. So those three
Mm-hmm.
sites would kind of give us a gauge of what the experience is within those three environments that offer pretty much the same service. And that's
Okay.
the same thing you want to do when you are understanding your business requirement, right? The whatever you're doing for your client or the business. Specify the most important problem is number two. Number three is to design, and number four is to evaluate your design. And you need to prototype and test, right? And see if your design actually solves the problem. So that's the four steps. When we talked about the difference between the user design four-step process and the product development life cycle, there's a lot of overlap. But the product development life cycle, do you remember what it was? It was to brainstorm, to know who, what, when, where, and why, right? Who are you designing for? What do they need? What's their pain point? And then to design. And then the design and process, it involves the wireframing, the prototyping,
Mm-hmm.
the mock,
Brain
and then to test
design. Oh,
and launch. So this is what I'm talking about.
brainstorm, define, design, test, launch.
This one. So it's brainstorm, define, design, test. Yep, and launch. Those are the 5 phases of the product development life cycle. Versus the user design, the user-centered design. I think it's important that I say centered. User-centered design 4-step process. Everything is centered around the user. You know how they be like, you think the world revolves around you. And UX design, the world does revolve around the end user. AT, assistive technology, right?
Mhm.
We talked about assistive technology existing outside of the scope of just, online products or digital products. But in assistive technology, typically we're dealing with 4 types of assistive technology primarily, which is color modification, voice control, screen readers, and alternative text. Those are the 4 primary assistive technologies that you're going to work with within your world as a UX designer. Do you remember what color modification is for?
Yes, for people who have like visual impairments.
Low vision or yeah. And what about voice control?
So that they can talk and kind of like Siri or Alexa or
Yep.
I didn't get that. Oops. Could you try again?
I would say yeah, voice control is a little bit different but that's so here's the thing. Yes. Siri, Alexa, I don't want to say the G word because mine come on. Those all use voice control. Voice control in terms of like accessibility, the technologies are a little bit different in what they use in terms of navigating the site, but they are built on kind of like the same platform in terms of technology, but the actual devices, the actual voice control devices are different because they're specifically made to interact with the code of the site and to make decisions and navigate throughout that experience. So that's a little bit different than so Siri and the G word are not specifically voice control assistive technologies, but they are voice control devices.
Okay.
Those wouldn't be examples of assistive technologies, is what I'm trying to say. Like you couldn't use your Siri to navigate a site. You see what I'm saying? Like that was accessible.
Okay.
We talked about this. We just talked about all of this stuff. Alternative text. You should not forget what alternative text is. Because we did that. We looked at that with Lighthouse. And so alternative text is the text. Remember, we did the inspector and we can look at whether or not the alt tag, which stands for alternative text, was attached to the images, remember? Because that allows, what's alternative text used for in terms of screen readers?
So that it can read out, so that the assisted technology can read out what is the text, it can read the icons and stuff for you.
Yep, it can give you a verbal representation of a visual display. And we just talked about considering new users, and that's everything that we covered today. So in terms of the homework assignment, wait, I don't want to gloss over this. So we talked about making sure that we consider new tech users in our design, people who are coming online for the first time. That is a very big movement that a lot of times we don't understand how big it is because we just come from a bias of assuming everyone is already online. And there are people in parts of the world who are greatly impacting the traffic of online, greatly impacting online traffic in their first time online users. So just like I said, make sure that we accommodate for age and exposure, low-end devices, no access, to data, language barriers, all those things need to be considered when we talk about. And so when I talk about that, am I talking about equitable or inclusive design?
Equitable.
Yep. Okay. And last but not least, switch. What am I looking for? I'm drawing a blank. Oh. Okay. So here's a recap. All right, so on the shared Google Doc, I dated it so that we know. For homework, make sure you check out these links and read through them. So it's Designing for Global Accessibility, Part 1, and then the Designer's Guide to Accessibility Research. So those would be, oh, go ahead.
Last week or the week before, the homework, it wasn't on there. But when I looked back on the video, it was on there, but the homework wasn't on the shared document.
Oh, well, go check out the shared document right now and see if you can see it.
Okay.
There's 2 shared documents, by the way, too.
Oh, maybe
I don't know if you were looking at the right one.
No, I was looking at, I know I wasn't looking at the right one. I was looking at the one
with our first assignment with the 25 questions, yeah.
Maybe I didn't share this one then. I
Or
mean,
maybe
save it.
Well, you shouldn't, you don't have to save it. Like anytime you log in, you should just be able to access it. So let me give you the link to it. Let me share it with you.
Okay.
It says share it with 3 people. I already shared it with you, but I'll copy the link though and put it back. Maybe you just don't know how to get to it. So bookmark this so that you can get back to it. Hold on, let me see. So go ahead and click on that link that I put in the chat, but bookmark it so that you can just go back to it. You don't have to keep trying to figure out where it is.
Let's see.
So I shared a link with you in Zoom.
Name, folder, favorites. Okay, let me just go back here. Chat. Okay, Google Docs. Okay.
All right, I see you. Okay, so yeah, so that was last week's homework assignment that you couldn't see, but it's right there. And then, so for today, where it says Designing for Global Accessibility Part 1, you want to read these 2, you read these 2 reports this week. They're going to help you to solidify everything. And these are the terms that we went over that you know, just so that over the week you have time to just kind of look over them, digest them, study them. But this is everything we talked about.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I never added it to my favorites. I think I just clicked on it. Okay.
So that is it for this week. Next week, when we're taking a deep dive into like understanding working inside of an agile environment and it's just like that whole UX process, it's a lot. So it wouldn't, I just rather we just start off fresh on that for the next session. Let me see. I don't think it's something you start when your brain is fried. It's too much.